Good morning, students. Welcome to online class. Hope you are keeping well by the grace of God. So, class 8. Today, I am going to teach you social science, chapter number 5, history segment. And the topic is when people rebel, 1857, and after policies and the people. Students, in my previous lecture, we have discussed about the tribals, the Daikus, and their lifestyle in chapter 4, or the Adivasis. So let us review the chapter synopsis that we already discussed the lifestyle of the tribals, the Adivasis, and who are those indigenous category of the society before British rule, and how was their lifestyle and how did they live. So who are the Adivasis or the tribals? Adivasis or the tribals, they are a indigenous category of the society, and from the very beginning they are fond of living, stay away from the mainstream. Their lifestyle or their livelihood, that is quite different from the urban people. They are very much attached to the forest and the natural aspects, and they are indispensable about the natural aspects or the forest. That is why they used to depend on forest and the wildlife very much before the British rule, and their life was undisturbed. They used to live their own life according to their own ways, and they had their own world. But when East India Company entered here, they disturbed their livelihood and their lifestyle. British, they imposed many acts, they imposed many laws. As a result, they were very much disturbed, and the Adivasis were very much disturbed. Till then, they were dependent on the shifting cultivation, or they were very much dependent on the forest and wildlife. But when British came, they started interfering in their life and livelihood. So these Adivasis or tribals, they felt insecure during British rule. They were forced to do the settle cultivation. Many acts were imposed on the forest or the forestry department, so that as consequence they were not as free as they were in the previous stage. So shifting cultivation, it was stopped by the British, and they were forced to do the settled cultivation, which they could not afford. For that, they required money. So the Daikus means the outsiders, those who were the money lenders known as Daikus. In the previous chapter, I am talking about in chapter 4, Daikus and the Zamindars, they were forced those tribals to borrow money from them in high interest for the cultivation, and obviously they were unable to repay their loan. As consequence, generation after generation, they had to work as bonded labor under those zamindars, and their life became miserable. They were passing their life with full misery, despair and distress. Often it happened out of starvation, many Adivasis and tribals, they died out of starvation. Many tribals and Adivasis, they were compelled to leave that particular place. They used to migrate to other areas or other regions. They were forced to. So, in the previous chapter, I taught you about the tribal lifestyle and livelihood. And the concluding part of the previous chapter, that was that how far they would tolerate this exploitation, and they would tolerate the overpowering of the landlords or the daikos and simultaneously the British. So as a result, the tribals also started agitation against British rule. They also raised their voices against British policy, and ultimately the beginning of revolt, it was visible. So guys, that was the end of that chapter. That was the concluding part of chapter 4. And today guys, I am going to start chapter 5. That is the continuation of the previous chapter, and the heading of the chapter number 5 in your history book, and the heading is When People Rebel or Revolt, 1857 and After Policies and the People. So they started rebel, they started agitation, they started revolt against British rule, their harsh and rigid rules and acts against the peasants, not only the tribals, against the peasants, and simultaneously side by side the tribals and the Adivasis. So the peasants and the tribals, both sects, they became the victims of the time. So as a result, the situation or the economic condition of those Adivasis and tribals became worse. Most of them, they were passing their days on starvation. Apart from that, there are three reasons, there are three causes of their rebel. And this rebel started in the mid of 19th century. That means it started from 1857 as consequence. So there are three reasons why they started revolt or why they became rebellions. The first cause, that is the political cause. And what were the political causes? The political causes, that is the subsidiary alliance. Subsidiary alliance by East India Company. That what is subsidiary alliance? First you should know that what is subsidiary alliance. Subsidiary imposing of this act, it angered the peasants and the tribals. So what is subsidiary alliance, you should know.